Mr. President, Mark Twain said that the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. Harry Reid grew up in a tiny mining town of Searchlight, Nevada. This politician class, of which I'm part of, likes to try to trace their roots to some humble beginning, some log cabin experience that they've overcome to reach public office. Harry didn't have to fake it. He was the third of four boys, born in the Great Depression to a very poor family. His father was a hard rock miner who battled alcoholism and was tortured by depression. His father took his own life. Harry came to the floor so many times I can remember and spoke of this issue of suicide and what it had meant to him as a boy growing up and what it meant to so many people across America. His mother, a sweet, humble woman who helped to feed the family by doing laundry. The family home was a sight to behold. A tin-roofed wooden cabin with no indoor plumbing, no hot water, no telephone. The day Harry came into this world was December the 2nd, 1939. The day he had his Mark Twain moment and learned why he was put there happened 30 years later. Against all odds, Harry had escaped the poverty of his childhood. He had put himself through law school at George Washington University here in Washington, D.C., and he worked as a Capitol Hill police officer in this building to pay for his law school. After graduating, he returned to Nevada as a young lawyer and got involved in local politics. Then came that Mark Twain moment. Harry attended a speech at the University of Nevada in Reno by a writer named Alex Haley. Haley's masterwork, Roots, traced the story of one American family's triumphant rise over several generations from the horrors of slavery to freedom. Something that Alex Haley said that night hit Harry Reid like a thunderbolt. Haley said, "Be proud of who you are. You can't escape who you are." Harry Reid recalled that moment in his farewell address to the Senate a little over 4 years ago. Harry said, "I walked out of that event that night a different person, a new man. From that day forward, I would always be Harry Reid from Searchlight." As his favorite author, Mark Twain, might say, that was the day that Harry Reid found out why he was born. He spent the rest of his life after that Alex Haley experience, almost a half century, climbing the political ladder in America to one of its highest rungs, but using that power to help underdogs like that little boy from Searchlight, people like his parents who struggled to feed their children, and others who felt the crushing hand of fate. Harry really believed that the American family could come together as a government and make life better for one another. He believed that wise government decisions gave people an opportunity to overcome adversity. Some people who grow up in poverty and hardship and escape it are so seared by the pain of that life that they never want to look back. They develop a sort of myopia that seems to make it hard for them to even see the struggles of others. That was not Harry Reid. As a young man, he was a tough middleweight boxer. As a lawmaker, he used his boxer's instincts to fight for others. He mastered the arts of deal-making and lawmaking to help people who work hard and struggle. He will go down in history as a Senate Majority Leader who helped deliver the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, the most important health, economic security advancement in America in 50 years. 31 million Americans, 1 out of every 10, have health insurance today because of Obama's leadership and Harry Reid making it reality. His work in the Senate I witnessed personally, day by day by day. I can remember so many chapters, days when I thought it was over. There was no way. Here we were with exactly 60 votes, and our friend, a man we both loved, Teddy Kennedy, was dying. We didn't know if we could get to the finish line in time while he was still alive. But Harry was determined, a bulldog tenacity, to pass that Affordable Care Act. And every American with insurance has important protections they never had before because of that determination. When he fought for the Affordable Care Act, Harry remembered his own life story of how his brother had been writhing in agony in bed with a broken leg because the family couldn't afford to take him to a doctor. Harry used his power to help other families avoid that suffering. After the Great Recession of 2009 robbed millions of Americans of their jobs, their homes, and their savings, Harry Reid, as majority leader, helped pass the landmark Dodd-Frank Wall Street reform to help prevent the abuses that led to that crash. Nevada is a home to many immigrants, and Senator Harry Reid was a passionate advocate for legislation to fix our broken immigration system. We came to the House together, elected in 1982. He left just a few years later to come to the Senate, and I joined him a few years after that. So we had a friendship that dated back many years. He knew my feelings about immigration, particularly about the DREAM Act. And he wasn't sure of exactly what to do until he had two moments in life. One, when his wife, Landra, talked to him about that issue and how he had to do the right thing. And the second, when he came to meet the immigrant people who were in his state of Nevada and hear their life stories. He promised me, as my friend and as his whip to his majority leadership, that he would bring the DREAM Act to the floor. He knew he had to block out the calendar to do it, and he knew the chances of success were limited, but he was determined to give me my day here on the floor of the Senate. He brought the DREAM Act to the floor of the Senate in December of 2010. We had a majority for it. It wasn't the only time we had a majority, but of course fell short of the 60-vote requirement under the filibuster. Then Harry said, "What can I do?" And I told him, "Harry, we've got to reach out to our friend and former colleague, Barack Obama. We've got to ask him to do everything in his power to use his executive office to do what we cannot accomplish because of the filibuster." And so we wrote a letter, 22 of us, Democrats, to Barack Obama, pleading with him to step in and help those wonderful young people who were just asking for a chance to be part of America's future. Harry's signature meant a lot as majority leader of the Senate. Barack Obama said he would help. He created DACA, and hundreds of thousands of these young people had their chance to be legally in America and have a chance to be part of its future. Harry Reid served in Congress longer than any Nevadan in history. He served in the Senate for 30 years. He was one of only 3 people to serve 8 years or more as Senate Majority Leader. He earned the tribute of a nation, and it will be paid to him this coming weekend and the following week when his body will lie in state in the rotunda of this Capitol that he loved. Harry was my colleague, my leader, and my friend. Had he not called me personally and asked me to consider running for whip many years ago, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I knew that if he trusted me, I could offer my candidacy to the Senate in the hopes of being elected as whip. He had so many stories to tell. Hardly a day would go by that I wouldn't be in his office. He would tell some story about growing up, about his high school buddies, about his sports experience, about his wonderful wife, Landra, about family experiences that always were colorful stories. One involved one of his brothers who got into a fight in a bar in Nevada. His brother was outnumbered and he was about to take a beating when the front door of the tavern flung open and Cousin Jeff, a big bruiser of a man, walked in and took control, saving his brother from a beating. I was proud to be called Cousin Jeff by Harry when he called me into political battle so many times to be by his side. It was always an honor. I watched him carefully when he served as both majority and minority whip. Harry was famously a man of few words, a man of extraordinary humility. He was the first to admit he wasn't much of an orator. And he would also say, his good looks didn't win him a public office. But he had a real genius in listening to people and hearing more than speaking. He listened to the voices in our caucus, across the aisle, and across America. And he managed often to find a way forward. He was a modest man. He didn't care who got the credit as long as the work was done. The only thing that Harry Reid loved as much as this Senate and the promise of America was his family. Landra is just such an extraordinary person. Harry's wife of 62 years. They started dating in high school, and Harry knew that she was the one. It took some convincing for her family to come around to that point of view, but they did, and had a strong, loving relationship. Their children, Rory, Lana, Kay, Leaf, and Josh, and their 19 grandchildren were such a great source of pride to Harry, more than anything. I want to extend my sympathy to them on my behalf and behalf of my wife, Loretta, as well as to the talented staff members who served Harry Reid for so many years. Many of them are still here in the Senate. Above my desk is a portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Above Harry's desk was a huge portrait of Mark Twain. I was a little puzzled when I first saw it because I pictured Mark Twain on the Mississippi, growing up in Missouri. I didn't quite understand the Nevada connection. In fact, Twain spent the largest share of his life in Connecticut, where he and his wife raised their family. But Harry Reid was quick to tell you it was while Samuel Clemens was working as a young newspaper reporter in Nevada that he became Mark Twain. It was in Nevada that Clemens first used that pseudonym and where he resolved to make his mark on this world with his pen and his genius. Harry Reid rose to one of the highest positions in our government. He met with presidents, prime ministers, even monarchs. And this man from Searchlight helped craft and pass some of the most important legislation of our time. But like Mark Twain, it was in Nevada that Harry discovered why he was born. He fought for justice and fairness, and he always fought for the underdog. He was searching for those young people like himself who grew up in a hard rock mining town under the toughest of circumstances and did their best. He wanted to give them the same fighting chance he had in life. Harry fought the good fight. He finished the race. America is better for it, and I will miss my friend. I yield the floor.